They kind of had the wood on us for a few years now. You'll see we don't do a very good job of stopping Lance. So it was more how we could break down their 3-3-3 press. Oh well, Pete, if you're listening, your record's in danger.
Kia ora team, Tiff here from 7 Touch, and you're watching Touch Tapes. It's a series where we roll the tape and we hear the stories directly from the field. Joining us today, we've got Matty Sinclair. He's the current Touch Blacks Men's Open captain, amassing over 50 tests for the Touch Blacks since his debut back in 2013. He's also a four-time national champion, twice each with Counties and Waikato. And yeah, bro, I'm happy. I'm excited to be joining you today to have a chat. Appreciate you having me on, bro.
Sounds good, mate. Let's get into it.
Today we're going to roll the tape on the 2024 National Men's Open Final, Counties and North Harbour. It was actually a repeat, a rematch of the final the year before. What can you remember from the final the year before that, 2023?
That was Palmy, and that was the one where we had to play was it 9 or 10 pool matches?
Oh, yeah.
So I think it was 3 Friday, 3 Saturday, and then you had to play another one Sunday morning as well. So that was pretty brutal. So we were kind of the goal was kind of just to limp into the final if we could get there. And we managed to do that. We lost Hutchie in the semi, so that was a big loss. But yeah, Harbour just too good and had the legs on us on that day.
So your boys, your counties boys, like you made the jump back from Waikato. So you've been a bit of you've been around the traps a little bit, bro? Like you started out playing for counties. You had that year playing for North Harbour. You played Waikato, was it like 5 or 6 seasons?
Yeah, something like
And then made your way back to counties before you and the boys went down to Thames Valley, and then coming back to counties. Like that's a bit of a trip, bro. But having all of your boys playing alongside you, all of your clubmates playing alongside you, how much does that help, I suppose, sort of elevate your game or make you feel a little bit more comfortable being out there on the pitch?
Yeah, it's massive. Obviously, the goal was more to be able to kind of put a lot of these guys onto this stage and showcase what a lot of these guys who might not get the opportunity for our counties and kind of stuff like that. So that was always the goal, to see if we could actually do this with a lot of these boys. And yeah, it's massive. Like you know, because you train with the same guys week in, week out for months leading up to something like this. Whereas if it was kind of more of like a rep thing, you only get, one training every 2 or 3 weeks kind of a thing. So anytime you can get all that familiarity, and that's something that definitely showed in this tournament, and especially this game, is massive. Like we talk about it a lot, the teamwork index and all that kind of stuff. So just being able to have rep after rep with guys that basically inside and out is massive.
So let's talk about getting the reps under the belt and the game planning, because there was a bit of a plan that went into this, say, like leading up into the game. Do you want to sort of touch on the rivalry between Loaded, Pearl Jam, Counties, North Harbour?
Yeah, it's obviously we play a lot of those guys a lot of the year. Div 1 at Module, and then we're always kind of there or thereabouts in most of those tournaments. So you play, all the major tournaments, you kind of come up against them in a semi or a final sometimes, and then getting to know a lot of them through the New Zealand stuff too. So you yeah, we definitely had a thought that this is where it could end up, us versus them, or even in a semi or something like that. So they kind of had the wood on us, for a few years now,
Oh,
in a
okay.
lot of those games. So it's always something that we try and just have a little edge, try and find a little something to get the wood over them. But yeah, it's hard because they're pretty clinical, and they don't make that many mistakes, and they've just got threats all over the park. So it was more based around how we could kind of break down their 3-3-3 press. And so we, pretty much like a month before the tournament, we kind of decided to just kind of figure out a way that we could shift the ball a little bit to kind of try and break that press, and then we'd be able to kind of attack off the back of it a little bit better. Which, if teams know us, we're quite like we can be quite robotic in a lot of the stuff that we do, and quite drilled and stuff like that. So it was something new to us to play a little bit of eyes up, play a little bit of like freestyle yardage, and no, it was cool. Like I enjoyed it. I like playing that style. It's a lot more fun, and yeah, like when you start to get on top of teams and doing that, and because your press becomes such a big part of your focus, and actually stopping teams at halfway. If we can, on the opposite, if you can break that down, then you start to get a bit of ascendancy.
It's funny hearing you talk about the whole eyes up kind of thing, because you look at a couple of players in your team. Touch isn't natural to them. Hey, with all due respect, like there are a couple of boys in your team where you kind of Hachi, Mark Hodson, Nat Turner, those sorts of players. You guys kind of like had to teach and drill those types of things into them. What have you noticed about the growth of some of your players by doing that from sort of year one to year, what's this, maybe 13, now that they've been in your system?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what made this probably one of the most special ones, is that we had a lot of guys who wouldn't have played a rep game up until 1 or 2 years ago, kind of a thing, and they're just we've been mates for such a long time, and they just love it, and they've put so much time and effort into it and wanted to get better, and just yeah, definitely didn't have the same like level of talent that a lot of other guys have, but yeah, like I said, that's why it's so special, is the amount of work that guys like Callum Diamond and Hayden Shalhoub and um, the Dylan Brocketts of the world, Brad Martin, Charles Wilkie, like not household names by any means. And some guys, some of those guys don't even get past halfway in these types of games and stuff like that, or might not play big minutes, but it's just the little things that they seem to do pretty well. So that's yeah, we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah, they always seem to find a way to add value. I've found, especially when they can shore up the defensive end of the field, and then allow guys like yourself to be able to open up on the attacking end, as we'll probably see throughout this game. So just touching on your team, then, who would have been the players alongside yourself that you would have thought, these would be difficult for any defensive assignment to handle?
Hutchie obviously is a handful, and we kind of got a pretty good combo going this year, and probably the last 2 or 3 years. Nat Turner's obviously dangerous. You can put him in the right spots. We had Boston Franklin managed to get him back for this tournament, but of freakish talent. I don't think we knew what he was up to half the time, so I don't know how the D was able to stop him. And then we got the likes of Sean Wilkie and Rocky Morrison, who have just come in leaps and bounds, and can kind of just come in and pick their moments, and yeah, and play off the back of that.
Yeah, beautiful. And then on the opposite side of the field, like Harbour, they've got some pretty handy talents themselves. Was there anyone in particular where you thought, we kind of have to shut them down if we want a good chance at taking this game out?
Yeah, there's threats across the park. The likes of Lance and Nate. As we'll see, we don't do a very good job of stopping Lance. I think he single-handedly keeps them in this game, but yeah, those two obviously pretty freakish, and you gotta be on your toes. Georgie was attacking pretty well by that stage, and then they had Shiloh and pretty good supporting cast around them, Tamatia and um, those kind of guys. So it wasn't. It's never easy defending those characters for a long time.
Nah, it's hard enough shutting one down, let alone 4 or 5, 6
Yeah.
of them, eh? But yeah, sweet, bro. Ready to roll into it? Sweet. Let's roll the tape. So we're at Rotorua International Stadium. Do you like that place as a venue, bro?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's it was the first time we're up on this finals. This field is the finals
Yeah.
field, so usually it was down in the stadium. But yeah, it was all good.
I feel like there's like pros and cons to either or, because they had the Māori national finals up here as well, and having a final down in the stadium, like that's cool, but then you don't really get that sort of atmosphere of having people in close to the sideline. And I was chatting to Mitta about it as well, and he was saying he was kind of comparing. You look at like a whakatane or like a 10K where the spectators and supporters are right there on the sideline, and it creates that sort of coliseum kind of effect. And like that just adds to the atmosphere of the match.
Yeah, I definitely prefer like something like that.
Yeah.
Compared to the stadium kind of feel.
Yeah.
We had the Trans Taz in 2018 there, and that was it's just you couldn't get much of a atmosphere, which you kind of need sometimes.
It's fun. Yeah, hard out, especially a home crowd. Hey.
Yeah.
So you guys had Mark Hodson sitting out and Cameron Todd.
Yeah. Toddy did his calf or hammy on Saturday, I think. So yeah, we're okay. We're running low, but we're okay.
What kind of effect did Mark Hodson have on your, even just your club scene, bro? Because he came from, I don't know, like he kind of came from no man's land in terms of the club scene, and then he kind of really found a home with you guys at Loaded. How did you get him over in the first place, and then what sort of effect has he had on your boys over the 5-10 years that he's been there?
Yeah, he's been massive, eh? I can't quite remember how we got him. Might have something to do with culture. He might have liked the culture, let's just say. But I think he just moved up to Auckland, and so he's kind of looking for a club, and it was probably just a pretty good fit at the time. I think we had a few mutual friends, Tom Fitzgerald, who played touch backs. Yeah. They were kind of best mates, so me and Tom got along quite well. One campaign, and so yeah, it was a pretty smooth transition. But yeah, he's been massive, like just his leadership, and he was able to get a lot of our young boys from Howick. He was a teacher there.
Of course, yeah.
Did some pretty good recruiting for us, and yeah, he's just been part of our leadership group, like me and Hutch and Matty, and it's just been pretty smooth sailing. We always kind of test each other, but we always kind of end up like agreeing somehow in a way, and it's never. He's probably like the kind of the sane voice in the background who kind of meets in the middle on a lot of issues.
Voice of reason, eh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Maybe because of his age, but
how old is he? Is he 40 yet?
Yeah, I don't know. He's going to be the greatest Masters player in history, Otto, if you're listening.
Well, he's already got one campaign under his belt, eh?
He's one from one. How many did Mr. Touch get? I think he's coming for his record.
Oh, bro. I think he actually won. Don't even think I'm making this up. I feel like Pete won something like 20 straight titles in the Masters division. Like something crazy like that. It's ridiculous.
Oh, well, Pete, if you're listening, the record's in danger.
So we see you coming off the back end there, bro. Like you'll see within this first half especially, like you coming off the back end of yards off the deck, like that was a massive part of your guys' game, mate.
Yeah, it's kind of the way our attack progressed the last couple of years was that we kind of needed that power game off the back of it. I think we got quite good at it, but it really comes from the start, like a solid D set, able to generate some pretty good momentum and kind of break the press a little bit. And yeah, and whoever's like, I have some amazing setters in this team, like world-class setting for me, where I can basically just hit the ball as hard as I can and hope there's a gap somewhere kind of a thing, and yeah, get lucky. He just needed to get out of the way a little bit.
Yeah, get out of the ruck.
He's in the ruck a little bit.
This is an interesting one, bro, because this would have been the first try of the game. Unfortunately, just stands out right at the last minute. But you were talking before about that being a deliberate little thing for you guys.
Yeah, Pearl Jam and North Harbour are obviously pretty good at that Overwatch on 4, where they bring 3 guys from the far side and basically try and cram you back in on your scoop. And so we deliberately practice that a lot through the season, and yeah, it almost came out in the big moment there, but I think it was more just a good thing that we were able to break it. And I think for them, it kind of puts a little bit of doubt in your mind.
Yeah,
If,
100%.
should we keep doing it, or that's all you're trying to create really is just a tiny bit of doubt.
And I suppose it doesn't matter in the end, eh? Hutchie sets up Nat Turner there. It's like 2 of your main strikes. What do you think makes Hutchie so dangerous, bro?
I think he got to a point physically where he was probably one of the sharpest people on the field, and he could kind of beat you in ways like that where you weren't really expecting. Probably guys would still probably disrespect him like that a little bit, I think, and not actually push forward and kind of try and take the space away from him. So yeah, he reaped the benefits of a lot of those kind of plays this tournament.
And especially now, yeah, I think he was probably one of your main sort of exponents of that eyes up kind of touch, eh? You mentioned before you had a pretty good combo with him. And then I think we can see a little bit of your guys' yardage pattern, that change up to your yardage already working.
Yeah.
Kind of looking to go center of the field and then just finding a little bit of purchase out on the right.
Yeah. It doesn't need much. You only kind of need a break an extra 5 or 10 meters for 1 or 2, and that's a pretty good win. So you don't actually need too much. You just kind of got to get a couple of them offside.
Just not trying to bite off more than you can chew, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Lance, he's pretty sharp, bro. What was it like playing with Lance for the touchbacks? What is it like? You
That's
guys
an
are still
interesting
teammates.
experience. He's the man. He's yeah. A lot of guys see, a lot of the external stuff from Lance, and he's actually just top man, and actually cares quite deeply about the team. And you play with him long enough, you actually realize a lot of the stuff he does defensively is world class, and it's not just about the kind of attack stuff. Probably more so his yardage, some of the kick starts and times he can find space for you is so crucial.
I remember when he made his debut, that was the Brisbane series, the one up at Whites Hill. And just his ability to cover space defensively was it was really, really impressive. And I remember it's not exactly the first thing that comes to mind, because you do see all of the moments of brilliance that he can pull out an attack, and you don't really think about the stuff that's equally as helpful in defence. So you said it was a month before when you guys were breaking this down?
Yeah, I feel like it was a little bit like that, where we kind of realised we had to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of spent a bit of time, but we were able to kind of get a lot of work done through the tournament and practicing it.
As in getting reps in?
Yeah, getting reps in through the tournament. So.
Because then it just opens up on the back end. You just saw in that set there. So I actually might go back for that one.
That one's an interesting one, because we don't actually break them that well. They actually they kind of stop us a good couple times. But I think if you can just kind of get it was stopped, but at least we kind of kept a little bit of momentum.
Yeah. Like that one there.
That one. It wasn't a complete stop. And Shawnee gets a little outside shoulder there. And that's able to kind of
get you guys back on the front foot.
Tommy gets called offside, which is obviously good for us, but it wasn't like a complete failure.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all I think you're trying to look for, is just to make sure that you can get some sort of look on the back end.
I think like your speed off the mark, bro, has been like one of the best features of your game for ages. Is that something that you like work on when you're doing your own individual training in that? Or is that something that more
not
comes
as much as
naturally?
I should be, probably.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm not faster. I'm just craftier, if that makes sense. Like,
Okay.
I've definitely worked on hitting the scoop harder, and instead of basically my idea is I should be almost like pretty scared as I'm scooping this ball that I'm
Yeah.
gonna run
Drop.
into the back of my driver,
Oh, okay, yeah.
kind of a thing.
Because you'll see
But,
another example of it here.
Honestly, but like I get world class setting, like I get these clean channels to run through because my driver's done such a good job.
It's funny, the try before, so that one was that Rocky or was that Boston that set that one?
That was boss.
So we're looking at it gets inside shoulder. I've noticed it for both of them, but it's like as soon as they drop, they know just to like clear out and just provide you with as much space and as much of a lane as possible
Yeah.
for you to really, sort of open up into your stride. I remember watching this and then seeing those back-to-back tries, and I think a lot of people probably would have thought the same, but they would have thought like, Matty's probably one of the top players in New Zealand, with like, second place is a bit far off. Because like even just those two back to back, like everyone, especially through the early part of your career, kind of knew you for your long ball, but then just having your game evolve to a point where like you're beating players in multiple ways. You had the pass and you still have the pass, but then beating players off the deck. You developed a bit of a quickie game, especially once the rules kind of changed to the 7. But yeah, I reckon you were probably one of the most dangerous players going around, especially around this time. And this is only a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now.
Morrison back with the ball. Franklin sets things up. Morrison now walking around the back. Forward pass off the right.
Was there any particular plan on the 7?
No, there never really is. Our attacks, pretty random. It's not really something that we work on enough, probably. Just a few like fundamental things, like getting a lot of the D line, high and offside.
Yeah.
There he goes again, just doing Lance things.
Just that body evasion right at the last minute, eh?
I just don't know if there's a player in the country who can score this try, like jump over someone like that. Pretty frustrating to verse.
But it's the fact that he's doing that and he's at close to full speed as well. It was a nice little stutter step from Georgie.
This is the
Because
angle.
Sean's there, there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
The reason I asked why if there was any kind of plan is because I noticed sort of around this time frame and even the season just gone, you and Hutchie do a lot of work, trying to attract both middle defenders up at the touch, because you guys are both pretty good exponents at the quickie, especially Hutchie. And so just wondering if there was like any sort of game plan, or is that just something that kind of, because of your guys' combination, that just sort of comes naturally?
Yeah, it's more of a natural thing. We spent a lot of time kind of working out what works best, and a few little different looks and ideas and stuff like that. So that's kind of what it comes back to, is just those reps through the years, and such a probably one of the most underrated players in the game, I reckon.
Riley Harrison. It was funny, because we were having a chat just before, and I was mentioning that like he made his debut for the Touch Blacks this past season down in Christchurch for the Open Mixed. And, you'd look at some of their, frontline players or the players that had sort of been there, done that, the likes of T.R. McIntyre, George, Durban Burgess, players like that. And then you kind of have a look at the players that are maybe at the bottom, maybe like sort of numbers 8, 9, 10 in the mixed game, and you would have seen Riley Harrison's name there and thought, man, there's probably a couple of guys that I would have picked ahead of him, but no, he had an excellent debut. Just knew his role really well, and then executed really well for that team. Is that kind of what he brings to your guys' team as well?
Yeah, pretty much. And just goes all day, and yeah, just his finishing is just unbelievable though. Like some of the spots he can get himself into, kind of diving around players or like catching bullet passes on short balls and stuff like that.
But there was a prime example just then.
Yeah.
Is getting on
Like
the outside
catching
of
them
that
at his feet, like he can do it all.
Yeah.
And just kind of turned into a pretty world-class defender as well by last year. So he got that call up to the max.
Yeah, man, your guys' yardage was like just punishing them. Just as I say, that forward pass at the ruck.
I think we sometimes went too fast.
Yeah, it kind of did seem like that, eh?
Yeah, stuff like that happening. We actually had our own kind of plan to press them as well, but we had to kind of throw that out the window. Basically, 4 or 5 minutes in, because they kind of broke us a few times earlier, and we just basically had to pull pin in the box and just say flat line.
So what was it? What was the plan?
Oh, well, it was pretty, just your stock 4-2-2 kind of a press, just to kind of rattle them a bit. But yeah, I don't know. We didn't really try it too much in the tournament, so there's probably not enough reps.
Okay.
And then I think when you get in situations like that, though, you've got to be ready to be flexible.
100%.
And even though it was part of our plan, it just wasn't working. So
yeah, that's interesting, because in your team, we were talking about having Mark in the box, but like you guys don't really have like a designated coach, that kind of sits at the top. You guys kind of have that leadership crew, and then just a ready, willing, and able playing crew that kind of just implements whatever plan you guys have in place. Where does that kind of core come from?
From what I remember, it was probably more of a chat from everyone. Mark was massive in this game. He was actually calling a lot of stuff for us, which is always handy having someone like a cool head like that in the box. But that probably just came from like a quick yarn between Hutch or Nat or me and Hutch or someone like that.
Yep.
And then you just kind of hope and get the word out to everyone as quickly as possible.
And is that just from you guys like implementing the press and then being broken, they get them behind you, and then you coming off in the box and just going, man, that didn't work?
I think it was just the feel. Like it wasn't as if they were like, they didn't, score off. They scored off that first one where Lancey does that step back, but it was more that they were just getting too easy. Like the meters were too easy, and it was kind of like, all right, you just get a feel for it sometimes. That, all right, we're not like figuring it out that well right now, so let's just call it and play a bit more like conservative with a bit more of a flat line.
Yeah, so at the moment, your guys' yardage it's really like working really well for you, because you've gotten a couple of tries off the back end of some of the sets, and then you guys have got a couple of repeat sets on the 7 as well. Not quite converting, but you're at least getting that sort of ascendancy here.
Yeah, it's still a bit clunky, but I think we still kind of had the upper hand. But yeah, like some of this is pretty hard to watch how clunky it is.
Oh, really? Yeah, this is something that you guys kind of do better than most, is that sort of dancing around the 7 and really trying to get, those middles both up. And that's so hard to defend with you know, the new laws that are in now, and how hard referees are on, you know, players staying up until the touch.
Working their way back to the middle harbour
But
now.
you know, even then they're scooping from 15, 20 out, if that. So we were talking about Hachi before. What about Nat and what he brings to the team? Because he's not, you know, he's not one of like your main attackers. He can attack, but he's not necessarily one of your, you know, your linchpins. But he gets to a mountain of work defensively.
Yeah, he's the rock out there at Link.
When as fast as they are, they
I
really
think
need
most
to
people
keep
now
it
know,
up.
you know,
They have
it's
been.
kind of
Wilkie,
probably don't go his way.
Yeah.
nice honesty from the harbour player.
Just he just knows his body so well too, and how much space he can actually give an attacker until he has to start diving, and
Harbour defender, you see it here in the replay.
yeah, he just seems to
Wilkie
make
to the player
pretty
coming
much the
down
right
the middle.
decision every time defensively.
I've heard you talk before about,
Out by 3 now, Harley.
you know, him being the best player that you've played with that knows pretty much exactly how much space he can cover defensively. And so, you know, that helps him to know how long he can hold for, and that must help you out heaps as a middle.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Were you even playing middle in this game, or you transitioned to more of a
I
link?
was actually playing Link
Yeah.
in this game. It was just kind of how we configured our units. I wasn't, you know, we had pretty much a D crew, so Hayden and Alex played pretty much every defensive set that they could, along with Hutch and Nat. So yeah, that wasn't really my role. Unfortunately, I wasn't too happy about that, but had to do what was best for the team.
Jeez, yeah, Lancey's. So he scored the first two and then set up another. Was that a rogue defensive play, bro, or was that a
No,
planned
I
thing?
think that's, you know, a pretty good slam there on Lancey from middle quickie from Hutchie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think again that's just Lance doing Lance things. Like, you've got to really make sure you kind of finish him off there. But yeah, if you're like a split second off, as we've seen already, he's going to punish you, and I think we're about to see it again. So
Who threw that pass?
I don't know, worthy, I think.
Oh man, what does that do to the psyche of either yourself personally or the team? Because you guys had the upper hand for what, 18 and a half minutes. You know, you were up by 3, and then just like that, they go bang bang to go down by 1. What does that do to your mental state?
Yeah, it's not ideal. And you're right. Like at 5-2, it felt like 5-2 as well. You know, it felt dominant. And those are 2 tries within a minute, basically. So yeah, I don't know. We got to a point in our game where there wasn't a lot of panic in a lot of situations, and I remember in that moment we all kind of just looked at each other and knew, like, all right, yeah, they've got a couple quick ones back, but we were all over them, and we kind of knew we were all over them. So I don't think it was.
It's not so much panic stations.
No, it wasn't panic stations, which took us, probably took us a few years to get to a point like that where we're comfortable when stuff like that happens in games.
Because you guys in the past, and I say this with all due respect, but you guys were a pretty emotional team, which sometimes probably got you on the wrong side of some refereeing decisions. But was that something that you would work on? Like, is that a mental skills thing? Is that something that you guys do individually? Is that just something that kind of probably came a little bit more naturally?
Well, I think that just came with a bit of maturity from senior guys, myself definitely included. I was probably one of the main culprits of stuff like that.
Just asked us though.
Yeah, and and that I wouldn't say it feeds into everyone else, but it definitely puts like a bit of a downer on everyone else. And so yeah, I had to take a pretty hard look at myself a few years ago and had to kind of figure some stuff out where I was probably letting the team down.
Yeah, true.
And then so like I think we can get. It's probably another thing I'm quite proud of is this tournament. Like just the way we all kind of handled ourselves and.
It's definitely the most like tame and controlled that I've seen from a loaded and or a counties team at a national tournament.
Yeah, we're probably all getting a bit older too, and we just don't have the energy for it anymore.
Do you guys have starter moves?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say you guys don't strike me as the type of team to have any trick shots.
We have tried in the past, just to at least have a few plays set up in the back pocket, but kind of the style we were going with this year was more of a eyes up, so it was probably less about starter moves.
You're not gonna have that premeditation.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind it though. I think it's a good idea. Probably something we spent a lot of our time doing other stuff at practice, not.
Well, it's all about prioritizing, right? So, like, because how many trainings would you guys have leading into the tournament, and how often? What was the frequency like?
We kind of were definitely one, and then we kind of ramp it up a little bit, like a month
Leading
out.
internationals,
Yeah, something like that. So we were quite lucky that we're at a point where we'd all been together for a few years, so we didn't need to do as much. It was just a lot of like fine tuning and.
Because you get some provinces from around. Like we're pretty lucky in Auckland, like Harbour, pretty much North Shore or West Auckland kind of based. Auckland are more so sort of central, and then you guys in counties are south, East Auckland based. And then you get to, provinces like Bay of Plenty, where you've got guys in Tauranga, you've got guys in Rotorua, you've got guys in Whakatane. And so their preparation for nationals looks a lot different to what your guys' preparation for nationals looks like. Have you kind of found that balance is good for your guys' team, is having, you guys all sort of localized?
Yeah, for sure. I think as well, you can get like, if someone's wanting to do fitness or something like that, you can just kind of chuck it up on the chat, and someone else is always kind of going to be in the area keen, and like we're very lucky that we can do that, but it takes a lot of hard work as well at the same time, so it's not as if we could just rock up and it would be all good. It was definitely a lot of hard work.
A fair bit of buy-in from the boys too, eh?
Yeah, for sure. It's a huge commitment.
Yeah, that's a bit of a niggly one, eh? Because the tries that they have scored, from your guys' perspective, are they sort of ones that, like, where you're kind of like, there's not really much you can do?
Yeah, it's such a niggly one. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a try like that before.
No. Actually, I might have seen one. I remember playing in a final. We were playing against Manawatu down in Palmy. And it was Lani Kaiwai and one of the Binstead brothers. I can't remember who it was. They run like a little follow. And we shut down the follow, but Binstead gets the follow, and then both our middles go to him, and so he just pops it back to Lani, and he just catches it and puts it down.
Yeah.
But it is, bro. It's one of those tries where you're like...
2012?
It is 2012, yeah. It's just those ones where you're like... they all count, but it's not like a defensive breakdown, per se.
Yeah.
We see him here off the left, back off the right.
This is our answer to Lance.
Important touchdown for Counties Manukau. Just to wrestle back that lead, going
Yeah, that
up
was
6-5.
pretty massive.
I'm impressed at how calm.
I think it was important too, because if you don't score that, then they've got all the momentum, yeah?
Yeah.
Definitely not over.
Yeah, to strike back like that's always so important.
Davids Man of the moment.
They know he loves to throw the looping pass.
Yeah, and his passing, Lance's passing is not so much like a forte of his. It's more sort of the evasion and just getting players one-on-one.
Yeah.
But if he's going to passing like that, is that something that you take as like a vote of confidence as a defensive unit?
Yeah, for sure.
It looks like Howarth has caught on to him.
Especially if you can force him to pass late.
Yeah.
At least a metre short of the
He can
centre.
still obviously pass. He's a pretty good passer now as well. But
Easily
yeah,
read by
you
the
kind of
Counties
always
Monaco
your
winner.
wingers know to. You can probably be a little bit looser too.
Yeah, as we just saw there, that wasn't on Lance, but got some pretty tall timber out wide, eh?
Yeah, our wingers were massive. Like our wingers were pretty world class. Defensively, especially, like they just got to such a high level by this point.
So who's your wing? Are you guys going wing trio?
Yeah, three wings. Andy Bergen, Brad Martin, and Charles Wilkie.
Yeah. That one there. That looks like a matchup that you relish, eh? That one there. Dan probably caught it going a little bit straight rather than pulling that corner.
Yeah, that's,
was he the toucher?
Yeah, that's definitely a matchup. We spoke about that if we could get something a look like that, there'd probably be a bit of a pace mismatch.
I think the other thing is that you guys have managed to shut down Nate and George pretty well in this one too.
Yeah.
Like they haven't really offered as much as they would have in some of the other games that they played in the tournament.
Yeah, like I've said before, that D crew we had out there was just unbelievable in this game. So it definitely saved their best for last.
Yeah, you talk about pulling out your big moments when it matters the most.
Yeah.
You guys are really putting it all together at the moment.
David getting with the ball. Really.
Yeah, like a lot's got to be said for Hayden Shalou, and the work he did in this game. Like, I honestly don't think he went past halfway.
Crazy.
But that's his role, and that's for us to be successful. He's got to be that player for us.
Yeah.
And he is. And
as we've seen in the past.
yeah, unbelievable performance.
That's funny, eh? That's like a true sort of team first mentality. I remember when we were sort of, there we go. It's just that pace off the mark again, bro. That acceleration. Just able to catch defenders going back, get on the outside, and you guys have strung together a couple now. But I remember when we were, sort of just coming up, that was a story that Peter Mack always told us as well, was, he reckons he had a chat with one of the Australian players after a World Cup or whatever, and he said to him, yeah, Pete, in that game I didn't even cross halfway, but what that translates to is a gold medal. You can get caught up in teams with players that kind of want to be on the ball, or they want to be the star of the show, but that doesn't always necessarily translate to wins.
Yeah, and I feel like Harbour trying to look for different tempos and changes in tempo.
Yeah, might have even. I think the quote has something to do with like 4 World Cups or something like that.
Oh, I would have something like that.
I've won 4 World Cups and never been past halfway.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a Gary Saunders or something.
It does sound like it, eh?
Like
Yeah. You could probably even put someone like Stu Bridie in that sort of category now as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And again, we see Sinclair on the
Yeah,
ball.
there's that
Throws the long
ball.
pass, doesn't quite connect with Mana, but
It was there.
That would have been a dagger.
Certainly on top here in
Up
this game
4,
at Counties Monaco.
yeah, up 4.
And not only just being up 4, but that would have been 4 on the trot too. Guys would have been riding the momentum.
Significant amount of forward passes.
Yeah, but you can't really button off against these jokers though, eh? Like, you've really got to play for the whole 40. It's just so many threats.
Yeah, and just like that,
Example.
that's exactly what, that's pretty much the exact same play that you were looking for down the other end. And instead of being up 9-5, now it's 8-6. It's funny, how the game goes in swings and roundabouts.
Still 10 minutes.
Is your scoop something you work on, bro? Like, is that a skill that you do your own training on and stuff?
Not really.
Franklin.
It's
Matty gets the ball back.
kind of like what I was trying to say before. Like I just have kind of worked on
Split second
The-
between touch or ball down.
how hard I actually hit the ball. Like I want to be
6-8
like
though, 2
really
minutes,
almost
10 to go,
scared
can't believe there's that much
as I'm
line.
like about to scoop that I'm about to collide with
Mm.
someone, kind of a thing. And that's only been my like main focus really with it.
Important set to
Because that's funny, because it's a, it's a skill that,
also.
can be, practiced and worked on. But the fact that you're not putting your own personal sort of time and effort with it, but still being as good as you are on it, it's like it's like a bit of a scary thought.
Yeah, I don't really need to when I get world class setting like I've been getting. Make me look pretty good. Maybe I am faster. I don't know. I doubt it.
Yeah, sets like that, That's such
Yeah,
a good
like
drive.
that. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Going straight down Main Street. Good recovery. Nice touch there from Harbour.
Because even then, like, there's no try on the back end of it, but that's 7-7,
Getting on empty as we see
which is the next best thing.
Isaac, the number 6 from Harbour with a great
That was an early one.
setting plant. No, he didn't earn that one. Mate.
How do you
Getting
think
beyond that.
the likes of maybe like a Danyon or like a Lewis Nicol would have provided for this team? Do you reckon they would have changed the result?
Oh, they would tell you that probably. Nah, for sure. That was
Crucial set this one.
it doesn't hurt, does it?
No,
Having guys like that.
Harbour to get back within one.
Yeah, I'd say they were. That's something they'll probably tell people that we're probably missing a few, which
Yeah.
is true. But
can only play what's in front of you,
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah, County's defense.
the history books will always say that Counties won this one, but
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, those guys are excellent players. And probably would have been a different story if a couple of those guys were playing.
Here's George. He's kind of drummed up a pretty good combo with Tamatea over the last sort of 12 months. So
Yeah, definitely. Those two got something pretty good going.
Making yards, steaming down.
that was a pretty easy break, that one. What's your mindset around game management, bro? Do you like to know exactly what the score is, exactly the time?
Yeah. Especially in a game as important as this. We had Philly on the watch for most of it, so if up to how long to go, 6 minutes. You definitely don't need to be rushing anything.
Yeah.
And just kind of making sure that you can kind of take as long as you can with each set, probably from that point. Yeah, that's forward pass score. I thought that was pretty marginal.
Yeah. I reckon that would have been ball down too.
I think those are tricky because you see a lot of those all game, and I think if you're going to call one, you're going to have to start calling a whole heap of those ones. But that just comes from a frustrated me being penalised.
Comes from an old stubborn mule making those remarks. Yeah, it's funny. I've asked the last couple of people that I've gotten on about game management, and some of them are like, "No, don't tell me the score, don't tell me the time. I'm just going to keep playing until the hooter sounds." And then you got some that are kind of like, "No, yeah, I kind of want to know how many minutes we've got left, whether we're up or down." But it all comes down to that sort of game management, because if you know exactly the scenario and the situation that you're in, you can do those things like slow the game down. When you need a little bit more urgency. But at the moment, you guys are managing the game pretty well, and you're still not looking flustered at all. No one's breaking any shape. You guys are pretty disciplined here.
Yeah, it was definitely something we worked on as the game management side. Like it wasn't just me who would have to know that kind of stuff. We kind of wanted everyone to know what the situation required, and kind of from 6 or 7 minutes to go, kind of a thing.
Yep.
Like you kind of see it here, we kind of start to pull back a little bit and really kind of take our time with some things.
That's that gamesmanship, eh? Like if you've got a 2-try lead, you don't wanna be in any type of hurry.
Yeah, it can be like a double-edged sword too. Sometimes you don't want to take the foot completely off. So I think there's understanding what's required, but there's also knowing that you've still got to kind of finish sets well and still kind of put the hammer down on attack.
3 minutes 45 to go. Again, you mentioned dead time.
Yeah, it's funny because they actually talk about that in commentary for a little bit. Maya and Harley, they talk about how much dead time there is. Like, you guys are obviously not rushing to get balls on turnovers, and the amount of time that's spent just walking to the ball, walking back, walking to the mark. It all sort of plays into your guys' hands.
Also probably pretty buggered by this.
Last game of the tournament. How many round games did you guys have this one? Definitely wasn't 9, but...
Nah, it wasn't 9. It might have been... I don't know, maybe 6 or 7?
Because there would have been 2 pools this year.
Yeah, there's 2 pools, yeah.
And then straight semis to a final.
Yeah.
Do you remember who else made the top 4?
We played Canterbury in a pretty physical semi.
Yeah.
Great little fake there from
I
Rocket.
don't know who Harbour played.
Probably would have been Waikato to Auckland, eh?
Yeah. I think did theirs go to a drop-off, maybe? I can't remember.
Maybe it might have. I think your guys was the live stream one though, yeah? Your semi?
Nah.
No? Oh, it actually might have been Bay.
Oh, yeah, Bay.
Or it was Bay the year before.
No, yeah, it was Bay.
Was it?
Sorry to the Bay boys.
Bay Harbour?
Sorry, Sess. Yeah, and I think they were up. Oh, yeah, I think.
Really? I can't remember what year it was. But yeah, they kind of,
Big game, big call.
a lot of their boys were sort of hitting their stride, especially those Rotorua boys, the younger ones like Jordan Tuakana and the likes. But just still haven't tried to manage to sort of break through that glass ceiling. Minute and a half left. Do you reckon now at this point you're thinking, we've got it in the bag?
Nah.
Oh yeah.
Nah.
Even with a 2-try buffer?
Nah, because a minute and a half's nothing. You can easily score 2 tries in a minute and a half.
I mean, that's true. They scored 2 tries in a minute and a half at the end of the first half.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's more, when it's kind of this, a minute to go, up 1, but you don't really know. Like, our time is hopefully accurate, but it could be, if it's 20 seconds difference, that could be massive.
Huge,
So just trying to waste clock, but still get a decent look.
That's probably Nate's first real, crack at the line, or first real impact on the game.
Yeah, he was pretty well contained by the boys.
And then to ice the game. Yeah.
Both teams know it. With 14 seconds to go.
There it is.
The Counties get across.
You still hear guys, Mark's still barking orders in the box to get
out and
get something ready. You just kind of, that was the mentality the whole time. It's just not until like the final whistle.
So then you look at, you look at the scenes there, like you can tell that it means heaps to you boys. What did it mean to you? Because you've won national titles before, but you can clearly tell that this one kind of hits different.
Yeah, I was actually a bit of a mess after that. You see me there, and yeah, I was a bit of a mess. I think it was just years of like hard work, blood, sweat, tears. You know, a lot of guys in and out. It's so hard to keep amateur sports teams together, you know, and like try and keep guys interested as well. It's working towards like a goal like that. Yeah, that was like they're all special. This one just probably was the most in terms of doing it with, you know, a bunch of my best mates and probably just the journey, you know, and there was probably a lot of pressure on me too that you know, that if we were to be successful, I kind of had to play pretty well.
Do you think that's internal pressure, or do you think that's sort of external pressure?
That's definitely just internal.
I was going to say, because you're your own harshest critic, you know?
Yeah, so there's that too, and I think it was more just like, you're ecstatic, but it's also like a relief that I've actually put out a performance. Not only did everyone else played unreal, but I did my bit, you know, and I did what I needed to do for the team.
So then do you reckon at the end of this game you're thinking, man, I'm the best in New Zealand? Because I'm not going to lie, bro, it probably was a common thought from a lot of our touch community. Like I remember after this game, a lot of people thinking, man, like, yeah, Matty Sinclair is like our best player at the moment in New Zealand.
Yeah, like I just don't know if people actually watched the game properly. Like if they watched all those D sets, you know, like it's
They don't watch it with the touch nerd glasses on like you do.
exactly like I did a few good things on attack, but I wasn't out there every single defensive stop having to D Lance and Nate and Georgie and you know and really like stop them well too.
Yeah.
In a moment like that as well.
Yeah. Nice.
And yeah, that's just like I get goosebumps thinking about what those guys did for us, you know, in that game.
Definitely a team effort, but I'll take the first word of that answer, which was yes. So on that note, my mate, appreciate you jumping on. We'll catch you guys on the next one.